Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Last night, President Trump addressed the nation in a speech that immediately set off headlines, debates, and a flood of questions from millions of Americans trying to understand what this actually means for their wallets. In just one address, the president announced three major financial moves that he says will directly impact household finances across the country. We're talking about brand new checks being sent out almost immediately, sweeping tax changes that are projected to lead to much larger refunds in 2026, and major shifts at the Federal Reserve aimed at bringing interest rates down. The administration is positioning all of this as a major financial win for working Americans, retirees, and families struggling with the high cost of living. But as always, the real story is in the details, and tonight we're going to break down exactly what was said, what's confirmed, what's still unclear, and how this could affect your money moving forward. The first announcement that grabbed immediate attention was the confirmation of brand new checks going out right away. During the address, President Trump introduced what he called the Warrior Dividend, a one-time payment specifically for active-duty military service members. According to the president, more than 1.45 million service members will receive this payment before Christmas. The amount is $1,176 per person, a symbolic figure tied to the year 1776, when the Declaration of Independence was signed. This announcement was framed as a gesture of appreciation for those currently serving, and unlike many policy proposals that take months or years to materialize, this one was presented as immediate, tangible money hitting bank accounts. The administration says the funding for this Warrior Dividend comes from tariff revenue combined with savings generated by the recently passed One Big Beautiful Bill rather than from new borrowing. That distinction is important because it's meant to signal fiscal responsibility and avoid adding to the national debt. For those receiving it, a $1,176 payment can make a real difference, especially during the holiday season when expenses tend to spike. Rent, groceries, travel, and family obligations all add up quickly, and a check like this can provide some breathing room, even if only temporarily. However, once the initial excitement settles, practical questions start to surface. The first and most obvious question is eligibility. This payment applies only to active duty service members. Veterans, retirees, National Guard members not currently on active duty, and military families who no longer have someone actively serving are not included. For many Americans watching, especially older viewers and veterans, that exclusion raises concerns. If checks are being sent out, why are so many people who previously served being left out? For seniors in particular, many of whom live on fixed incomes and face rising medical and housing costs, this announcement may feel like yet another example of relief going to a specific group while others continue to struggle. The second issue is duration. The Warrior Dividend is a one-time payment. It is not a recurring benefit, not a monthly supplement, and not something that will show up again next year unless Congress and the administration take additional action. That means while it can help in the short term, it does not change anyone's long-term financial picture. It doesn't permanently increase income, reduce recurring bills, or adjust benefits like Social Security or VA compensation. Once the money is spent, it's gone. The third issue is repeatability. Because this payment is tied to tariff revenue and specific budget conditions, critics are questioning whether this approach can realistically be repeated. Tariff revenue can fluctuate, and budget savings are not guaranteed year after year. That raises the question of whether this is a one-off announcement timed for political impact, or the beginning of a broader strategy of targeted payments. These questions don't erase the fact that real money is going out, but they do matter when evaluating how far this kind of relief can go for the broader population. After addressing the Warrior Dividend, President Trump shifted to what may ultimately have a much larger financial impact for far more people: taxes. The president highlighted tax changes tied to the passage of the One Big Beautiful Bill, which he described as one of the most sweeping pieces of legislation ever passed by Congress. According to the administration, these changes are expected to result in much larger tax refunds in 2026, with next spring projected to be the largest tax refund season in American history. During the speech, the president claimed that many families will save between $11,000 and $20,000 per year under these tax changes. That is a bold claim, and one that has understandably generated both excitement and skepticism. The White House followed up by outlining several key provisions included in the bill. These include eliminating federal taxes on Social Security benefits, removing taxes on tips, and eliminating taxes on overtime pay. The administration says these changes will increase take-home pay throughout the year and ultimately lead to larger refunds when Americans file their taxes. For working Americans, especially those in service industries or jobs with significant overtime, the elimination of taxes on tips and overtime could result in noticeably higher paychecks. That kind of change can have an immediate effect on cash flow, making it easier to cover monthly expenses without relying on credit cards or savings. For seniors, the proposal to eliminate federal taxes on Social Security benefits is particularly significant. Many retirees currently find themselves paying taxes on a portion of their Social Security income, depending on their total income level. Removing that tax could reduce their overall tax burden and free up more money each month. However, it's important to understand how tax refunds actually work. A larger refund does not automatically mean you paid less in taxes overall. Refunds are influenced by withholding throughout the year. If too much is withheld from your paychecks or benefits, you may receive a larger refund, but that also means you had less money available during the year. For retirees living on fixed incomes, what often matters more than the size of a refund is how much money is withheld month to month. That's why the real impact of these changes won't be fully understood until the IRS releases updated guidance and withholding tables for 2026. This is a critical point that doesn't always get enough attention. If withholding is adjusted properly, retirees and workers alike could see higher net income throughout the year, rather than waiting for a refund. If withholding is not adjusted, people may still see large refunds, but they won't feel much difference in their monthly budgets. The timing of relief matters, especially for households that are already stretched thin. The third major announcement from the address focused on the Federal Reserve and interest rates. President Trump confirmed that he plans to announce a new chair of the Federal Reserve and made it clear that this individual supports significantly lower interest rates. He directly tied this decision to lower mortgage payments, reduced borrowing costs, and improved housing affordability. According to the president, mortgage payments are expected to come down even further in the coming year, and he also teased what he called some of the most aggressive housing reform plans in American history. Lower interest rates can have a powerful impact on the economy. For borrowers, they can mean lower monthly payments on mortgages, car loans, and other forms of credit. For first-time homebuyers, lower rates can make the difference between qualifying for a loan or being priced out of the market entirely. According to the White House, the average annual cost of a new mortgage is already about $3,000 lower than it was a year ago, with further declines expected if rates continue to fall. But there is another side to this story, especially for seniors and savers. Lower interest rates often lead to lower returns on savings accounts, certificates of deposit, and money market funds. Many retirees rely on interest income to supplement their Social Security benefits. When rates fall, that income can shrink, forcing seniors to dip into principal or take on more risk in search of higher returns. This is a delicate balance. While lower rates can stimulate economic activity and reduce borrowing costs, they can also penalize those who have spent decades saving responsibly. There is also the issue of inflation. If rates are cut too quickly or too aggressively, it can add upward pressure on prices over time. While the administration points to declining inflation and falling prices for certain goods, many households still feel squeezed by high housing costs, medical expenses, and insurance premiums. These are areas where price relief has been slower to materialize, and they often represent the largest portion of a senior's budget. Following the address, the White House released a detailed summary highlighting what it described as major economic improvements. According to the administration, inflation is averaging around 2.7%, with prices for groceries, fuel, and household goods declining. Prescription drug prices are reportedly coming down, gas prices are below $3 in most states, mortgage rates are trending lower, and real wages are rising faster than inflation. The White House also pointed to record employment levels, rising consumer confidence, and a stock market hitting new highs. On paper, these indicators paint a picture of an economy that is stabilizing and even strengthening. For investors and those still working, rising wages and a strong stock market can translate into growing retirement accounts and improved financial security. But for many seniors and fixed-income households, national averages don't always reflect personal reality. Housing costs remain high in many areas, property taxes continue to rise, and healthcare expenses often outpace inflation. Insurance premiums, in particular, have been a major pain point, increasing even as other costs come down. This disconnect between economic data and everyday experience is something many Americans are still grappling with. It's possible for inflation to be under control while individual households still feel like they're falling behind. That's why announcements like checks, tax changes, and rate cuts generate so much interest. People are looking for relief they can actually feel, not just numbers on a chart. Looking ahead, there are several key things to watch over the coming months. The first is the rollout of the Warrior dividend payments. How quickly are they delivered? Are there delays or complications? And is there any discussion of expanding eligibility to include veterans or other groups? The second is IRS guidance on tax withholding and refunds for 2026. This will be crucial for understanding how the promised tax savings show up in real life, especially for retirees and Social Security recipients. And the third is the appointment of the next Federal Reserve Chair. That decision will shape interest rate policy for years to come, influencing everything from mortgage rates to savings returns. At the end of the day, these announcements represent a mix of immediate action and long-term promises. Real checks are being sent out, tax changes are on the books, and interest rate policy is poised for a shift. But the ultimate question remains the same for millions of Americans. Will this translate into meaningful, lasting relief? Or will it feel like another round of headlines that sound good but don't fully address the pressures people face every month? If checks are already going out, tax refunds are projected to grow in 2026, and interest rates are coming down, yet everyday costs still feel overwhelming, it's natural to feel cautious. Economic turnarounds don't happen overnight, and not everyone benefits at the same time or in the same way. What matters most is whether these policies improve financial stability where you live, in your household, and in your budget. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Do you feel like these announcements are finally turning into real relief for you and your family, or does it still feel like the economy looks better on paper than it does at home? Let me know in the comments below. And if you found this breakdown helpful, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss future updates.